Welcome everyone, participants here or virtually. Welcome to our judges, our mentors, specialists, volunteers, partners. There are a lot of people here today, and there are people following us on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Mathieu Dugal. I'm host of Moteur de Recherche, or Search Engine, at Ici Première in Montreal. And I'm very pleased to be hosting the presentation here for the Hackathon 2019 in the company of Nora Young in our studios in Toronto.
Bonjour, Mathieu. I'm super excited. That's how I'm doing. Yeah, my name is Nora Young. I'm the host and co-creator of CBC Radio 1's Spark, which is our technology show. We've had a fantastic weekend here in Toronto. Everyone's done incredible work, putting in some long hours, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this weekend's hard work.
So now we're going to move on to the final presentations of the prototypes of the Hackathon 2019. And I think we can start by warmly applauding everybody here and everybody in attendance from elsewhere in Canada. Because when you think about it, people here know the procedure of the hackathon. It's pretty intense. It's 43 hours of work, and you start with almost nothing on Friday evening, and you have to end up with a functional prototype at the end of the weekend. What a job. Right, Nora?
Absolutely, Mathieu. Of the 415 people who signed up, 60 teams qualified at the selection round, and you are the 16 teams that made it to the finals. You're the 75 finalists. This weekend, these 16 teams have been representing more than 16 colleges and universities from all over Canada: Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia, Northwest Territories, and Quebec. Wow.
We could add that we have participants who worked virtually, which is an additional difficulty because you're distant and you're not feeling the energy that you can feel here in Montreal or on premises at CBC in Toronto. The teams are ready, and I think there's a certain level of stress. There's going to be a lot of relief between here and the end of the afternoon, but let's applaud them again.
I also want to say a very warm thank you to our amazing volunteers who supported the participants, experts, and mentors. It takes such a large team to pull this off, so thank you all very, very much. And before we go any further, can I ask everyone to turn off their phones or put them in silent mode so we're not interrupted? Thank you so much. Okay, so here's how the afternoon is going to play out. The 16 teams are going to present their prototypes. We're going to start with Montreal, and then we'll go to Toronto, and then the virtual presentations are going to take place throughout that whole time. So each team has just 3 minutes to present their prototype, and at the end of the 3 minutes, the clock will go off and the pitch will be over.
And when we say 3 minutes, it really is 3 minutes. And that's one of the difficulties of the whole exercise, because after those 3 minutes of presentation, there'll be questions from the jury, a maximum of 2 minutes. So you have to really have mastered your product and be able to communicate what the idea is. The jury is present in the same city. We'll be asking questions, and then we'll take questions from the other city. And you'll hear a bell sound to put an end to the questions of the jury. Here it is. A rather pleasant sound, all things considered. After the presentations, which should last about an hour and a half, the jury will withdraw to deliberate according to the following criteria: respect to the theme, the personalization of digital products of CBC Radio-Canada, use of one of the sources of data, the development on the platform, cloud platform Azure and/or AWS, interfaces that are consistent with the CWAG 2.AAA, and multilingual support. The team can also use other sources of open data and public services. all types of code, design, and other elements used in the design of the project will have to be in exclusive use during the Hackathon 2019 and must abide with third-party intellectual property requirements.
And once again, here are the awards at stake. To begin, a participation award that will be awarded to one of the participants by a draw. The winning participant will receive an Xbox One game console offered by Microsoft. Teams that are composed entirely of students will also be eligible to win the Best Student Team Award. The winning team will receive expert advice from Amazon Web Services experts at a 2-day workshop. Radio-Canada's Médias Numériques will be offering an Xbox One and a $1,000 bursary to each participant of the team that makes the best use of Radio-Canada's content, products, and data. CBC's digital products will award a Sony PlayStation 4 and a $1,000 bursary to each participant of the team that makes the best use of CBC's content, products, and data. And finally, the team that stands out the most will win the CEO's Outstanding Award presented by CBC Radio-Canada's CEO, Catherine Tate. Members of the winning team will each receive a bursary valued at $2,000.
Des gens qui n'auront pas une tâche facile durant
the people who won't have an easy time during our time together are the members of our jury. I can tell you from experience that it takes a lot of deliberation, and every year we have very high quality presentations. So in Montreal, we have Maxime Saint-Pierre, president of the jury. He's the executive director for digital media here at Radio-Canada. And he's supported by Brian Kahn, regional director for Microsoft.
And in Toronto, we have Sue Kim, executive director of CBC's media operations. Michelle Romano, Dragon on CBC's Dragon's Den and co-founder of Clearbank. And Alex Coquiero, Public Sector Solutions Architect Manager at Amazon Web Services. Thank you to our judges. Thank you so much for being with us. We know that the task of judging won't be an easy one. Now, once our judges finish with their deliberations, we'll meet up again here at the CBC Atrium and in Studio 45 in Montreal, somewhere around 4:30 to present the awards.
I would now also like to welcome people connected remotely. Again, it's not easy to be so far from the action, but stay connected so that you can follow the schedule. So now let's move on to the very heart of the 2019 Hackathon. Are you ready? Really ready?
Yes, we are. Ready to go, Mathieu.
Okay, so off and running. Here comes our first team. And it's not easier to break the ice in an event like this. I can see these people. These are people who work in the background. They'd like to rattle away at their keyboards, but they're in the spotlight. So let's show them a lot of love and warmth to break the glass for the opening session of our hackathon. They're called the Fab Five. I hope my throat will hold out to the end of the afternoon. Made up of Guillaume Huard, Hugues, Frédéric Capovilla, and Patrice Filel. Frédéric Capovilla, Émilie Bissonnette, Guillaume Huard, Hugues. Oh, the Fab Five. The fact that you're here is already great. Bravo. And let's hear what you have to present. You have exactly 3 minutes before we move over to the jury's questions. Fab Five. Hi there. Let me introduce the Fab Five for Radio-Canada CBC. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to present content of quality that reflects who we are. Of course, the problem is that your users want more.
Sur Radio-Canada, vous avez des suggestions qui sont
Radio-Canada CBC, you have suggestions that don't really reflect the variety of your offering. Your users come in and leave your platform quickly, and there's no way to trace where they go.
La solution qu'on vous propose.
The solution we're proposing is based on a study done by Niaiseux Norman Group in 2018. It says that users are likely to return to those sites and services that make it easier for them to find what they want.
On va vous présenter trois choses. Des suggestions liées à la navigation en cours de
Suggestions in line with their current navigation,
Elle vous présente aussi une visualisation
a visualization that is efficient of their navigation, and we're going to encourage content discovery.
Je vous présente le prototype que nous avons développé en
Here is the prototype we developed in less than 48 hours. Here is a page from the radiocanada.ca site. Here we have the navigation that the user has followed. At the bottom of the page, we have suggestions of navigators, internet users who are related to the individual. And we have buttons that give access to additional content and content in English, if it's so desired. And the user can follow through a progression tree, where they have been, and can do searches on pages that they've already read, and generate statistics based on their interests. So our solution can be adapted to mobile devices, to other interfaces like CBC. It's based on a flexible architecture that can integrate new sources of data. But it's not us that are claiming this, it's our 5 ambassadors who have tested it during the weekend. And here are a number of comments that we've received, going by too fast for you to read. And even as a programmer, you can understand. In the future, we have plenty of opportunities, and they're listed here. Thank you. Great. Do you get the bonus points for breaking the ice? I don't think so. So let's ask the jury to ask its questions here in Montreal. So what cognitive service are you going to use, and what's your platform? We're not going to use cognitive services. Please speak closer to the mic. Great. We didn't use cognitive services. We used CSV files of user navigation that have been provided. Any other questions? Okay. Any questions from Toronto?
We have a question here from Sue.
Can you tell us a little bit about the accessibility features of your prototype?
For the accessibility, well, since we already have integrated most of the solution inside the Radio Canada website, it seems our solution is already accessible. As for the history of the user browsing, it should be accessible by representing HTML structure that represents the visual state of your browsing history.
Thank you. Over to you in Montreal.
Okay, so I think that's it for the questions here. Thank you very much to the Fab Five, and good luck at our hackathon. Let's applaud their efforts.
Mathieu, let's bring Betalab on stage to see their demo. Our team is composed of Martin Malley, Andrew Gobens-Nissan, Jesse Gia, Bruce Nishimura, and Nicole Malhotra. Hi, guys.
Is there a clicker?
Yeah, I think.
Is there a clicker here?
Do we have a clicker?
Is there a clicker?
Is there a clicker? No? It's just on the laptop. Okay,
Okay, no worries.
okay, go to it.
Right. Hello, everyone. We're Betalab. We're the team from Queen's University for students ranging from first to fourth year. Today, we'll be presenting a mobile prototype of both iOS and Android, taking on a backend that solves two main problems. First is the bulky interface that we currently saw on the iOS and Android app for CBC, and second is the lack of user-centric news. So our focus was personalization for the user, as well as looking at how we can take that personalization and get it to the user in a friendly way. Second, we used the technical summary of an AWS backend on EC2, iOS and Android apps, and focusing on accessibility and multilingual support on the iOS version. So, our recommender system works using a k-means algorithm that essentially uses the Polypoly API, taking in the data and recommending basically how we took the data was using document embeddings, which is taking all the documents, the keywords, and sparsing them, looking through them, and taking the keywords from the articles that the users are reading and comparing them to the articles that are available, and then saying, okay, which articles will the users be interested in reading? So this is our stack, the data being inputted, being used on an EC2 Flask app, and then being pushed to the front end on iOS and Android. So we implemented search, bookmarks, and preferences as well, which were just basic functionalities of the prototype. And the next step that we were focusing on was the subscription system. This wasn't something we were able to get to, but it was using an email system where we would push out the articles that the users were reading and follow-ups to the users over email. And this is just a focus on the difference between the iOS and Android and how we were able to actually look at different UX experiences. Again, these are based on blogs and articles, not actual statistics, so to be held with a grain of salt. Now we'll move to the prototype. So this is the iOS version. This is the home screen. You can see these are news articles on CBC, the detail screen using the features that the app currently has. And something you'll see if you go back to the home screen, and when you click an article, any of these articles, and go to a detail screen, and if you scroll to the bottom of the detail screen, on the detail screen, our focus was down here to add the recommendations that we previously mentioned. This is something we weren't able to get to, but we can actually demonstrate that later.
Time's up, guys. Thank you so much, Betalab. And now we're going to go to our judges, who I'm sure have questions. So we're going to take one question from Toronto and then go to Montreal and then back to Toronto. So Alex, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Could you share us the biggest technical challenge that you had?
I guess
Microphone.
Yeah, sorry. I guess one of the big issues that we had was with the pulling from the Polypoly API and getting all of those news articles. We couldn't get as many as, we could only get a few at a time, so we had to resort to other methods of unsupervised learning for being able to actually make a recommender system. And we also had issues with coming up with an algorithm that could actually, we also had issues with trying to combine the, the actual interface and the backend, so that would be something that we'd have to include in the future, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to go over to Montreal. Do our judges in Montreal have a question for Betalab?
Do we have a question? Yeah, Brian.
Yes, can you talk to what was the quality of data that you used, and how did you find that quality of data that you used for your prototype?
I found the quality of data to be actually quite good, especially given that when we were pulling articles, you get so much data from even one pull. So even with not that much data that we ended up using, we actually were able to achieve fairly accurate results. Unfortunately, we couldn't show that in the demo today.
Just to add on that really quickly, in our demo, In our demo, we weren't able to actually show the recommendations because if we tried to pull, it would take several minutes from the back end, the API that we were using. And in an actual functional app, they would be able to see those recommendations in real time.
Okay, 5 seconds left, not enough time for another question. Thanks so much, Betalab. Woo. And we're now going to go to Vancouver to see what Team CDMC 13 has built this weekend. Team CDMC 13 is composed of Gabrielle Rice, Anna Juan, Megan Ang, and Kev Du. Hi there. How are you doing, guys? Okay, we're ready to see what you've come up with. Your time begins now.
We want to engage the user to remind us whether it's meeting our goal. So here's a reminder for me to maybe now I'm less interested in something and change it. So every weekly is regular engagement for us to meet our goals in terms of the news content. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CDMC 13. Judges, I'm sure you have questions for our team in Vancouver. Who would like to kick it off?
Sure. Are you really helping users meet a certain goal, like a fitness goal or something, or are you just giving them actually content they want? Because it looks like you've just created some personalization in the platform.
Yeah, so it's a balance between customization and personalization. Of course, the way we gauge their goal could be tweaked, but let's say it's a fitness, right? That could be in the health section in fitness, and then the content just becomes relevant to that input. So the user are just more aware why they're fed a certain articles or news or information to them, so it's more predictable and relevant in the user experience sense.
Thank you, team. Montréal, c'est à vous.
Yes, Maxime.
Montreal, over to you.
Yeah, can you talk more about web accessibility for us? Yeah, sure. I can talk a bit about the web accessibility. So as a mobile platform on iOS, so a lot of the accessibility features that have to do with keyboards are addressed in that they don't need keyboard shortcuts to be accessed. A lot of the accessibility features already existing on CBC's mobile platforms are already incorporated in, such as options for display are in the settings, to scale up text, to change text contrast, and various other choices for multimedia content, such as text alternatives, audio alternatives are also available.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question from our judges. Alex?
Yes. How do you see the evolution of your project?
So ideally, we want this to become a tool for the mobile platform for different CBC apps like news or radio. And eventually, hopefully, this will become a daily routine tool that is part of their everyday life.
Thank you, CDMC 13. Mathieu, over to you.
Wow, vraiment déjà beaucoup de très bonnes idées.
We've already had a lot of great ideas and lots of diverse approaches to rethink the way we consume information. And now we have a team from Montreal, Datalab, made up of Mojtaba Beventi, Adel Dijarawi, Yaya Hakati, Cesar Duran Molina, and Amina Sal. A round of applause. Please. You have 3 minutes. Hi there, everyone. I'm going to present a solution which we refer to as my news, developed by our team over the weekend. We decided to tackle the problem of infotoxification, which you suffer from when you land on many pages, home pages of websites. It's often felt that there's too much information on the page, and 25% of users visit the site and navigate through information they're looking for, and they use the search engine as well. On the web application, we also noticed, on the mobile application, that 66% of the visits represented users who leave after 60 seconds because they're not finding the information that they're looking for. What we're proposing is to use a part of this 60 seconds to propose information that would be interest to the visitors before they even ask themselves the question, and to make their reading more relevant. So let's have a look at the demo. The user, when they connect, will specify their preferences, which we've specified in the back end for the purposes of our presentation. So the user specifies their preferences and the time frame that they would like to spend reading for weekdays they're interested in, and one piece of news is presented at a time. They can swipe right to see the next, or swipe left if they're not interested, and this uses our recommendation engine that works in the background. Now, we used a technology which consisted of Amazon SageMaker to drive the model, and HDS data that gave us indications on the most read articles. And for future editions, we would like make this even more accessible with 2 buttons for appreciation, or thumbs up or thumbs down, basically. And we would like to provide more context in the personalization. And we would also like to further develop the functionality of our info application. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's start with questions from Montreal. Brian? Well, we just saw a couple of screens. How far have you developed the application over the weekend? Well, over the weekend, we developed the back-end part. So we were able to get the database we were also able to develop part of the front end. So you could swipe and you can read news, but we're not yet able to connect the two, to push the information to the back end so that the IA can learn. Any other questions here? Yes. You talked about figures. 25% of people who are news junkies. Where did that come from? That was from a colleague, Elodie Champoux, based on bioanalytics, analytics data.
Is there any questions in Toronto?
Yes, do we have a question in Toronto? Sue?
Can you elaborate on how you built the, what's driving the recommendations for the content for each user? What kind of data?
Hi, actually we use the Amazon SageMaker. The algorithm behind that is the factorization matrix. And we have used the read.js content that we have that have been available for us for this hackathon. We have learned starting from this data set.
Parfait, merci. Je pense que
okay, great. There are only 9 seconds, so no time for further questions. Thank you very much, Datalab.
Merci.
Thank you. So now we're going to choose, I don't know if we're going to have a perfect connection where our news is selected by the Datalab app.
Thank you, Mathieu. Actually, we're now inviting a team who traveled all the way from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories to the stage, Team True North. It's your turn. Come on up. How's the experience been this weekend?
It's been fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Okay, the team is comprised of David Waseltiu, Megan Cooper, and Brad Poulter. Take it away, guys.
My name's Brad. This is David and Megan, and we are Team True North, down from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. Remote communities, especially in the North, use local radio as a main source of information and communication. Call and request shows are literally the original community social media networks. They are the community lifeline from wishing your neighbor a happy birthday, spreading well wishes, condolences, and sharing information and stories. They even let your friends know their phone numbers have changed.
She's still my favorite sister-in-law. And I love you all, and that's from Martina Rogers in Fort McPherson.
As of now, live radio isn't available to Northern listeners after its broadcast. CBC listeners are limited to how they can interact with radio. We fixed this by adding features to local CBC radio feeds so they could be shared from the CBC website. We took CBC's audio feed and ran it through Amazon's speech recognition service and transcribe service to identify the host, the speakers, and the community names that are identified in the audio feed. We then created a custom dictionary of speech recognition so it could better identify pronunciation and local community names. We then tagged the timeline so users could link specifically to clips and community names, and they could browse clips relevant specifically to them. The beauty of this solution is it's automated and can be rolled out to all feeds across Canada. We recorded one of NWT's most popular radio shows, Northwind's Call-In Request Show with Juan McLeod. And like most Northern shows, it wasn't available online. We reverse engineered the local show based on CBC's audio API. And this is the first step to start making local radio more accessible for locals, whether it's Fort Good Hope, Norman Wells, or Inuvik. CBC users can now find and interact with clips specifically important to them and they can share custom links with families and loved ones via text, social media, or email.
And our next caller in Fort Good Hope. Good afternoon, Vincent.
Hello, it's Vincent in Norman Wells. Good afternoon in Norman Wells and Norman Wells. Good afternoon to you in Norman Wells. Good afternoon to you and your families. Yeah, have a safe and blessed weekend. Thanks for letting us talk to our loved ones near and far away, Wanda. And God bless everyone. And happy birthday, Eunice. Hope you have a great weekend. Have a nice weekend, Wanda. Thank you.
We think this is the tip of the iceberg of what can be done to move local radio forward. Imagine being able to personalize and save your best community content. Imagine being able to see the top 10 local community stories shared each year. This is just the starting point for local radio.
Thank you, Team True North. Now to our Toronto judges, do you have a question?
So in your prototype so far, are you already taking the radio files and digitizing them? Is that built so far?
So we, David?
Yeah, so what we did is we took the audio feed, like the recorded, and then we digitized it, we transcribed it, and then we did a text analysis. In our case, because in the North, a lot of the shows, because there's a lot of limited capacity at CBC in the North, a lot of shows don't even get posted online. So for our example show, we actually streamed the show and saved and made our own archived copy of it.
And do we have a question from our Montreal judges?
Yes, Brian has one.
Yes, how do you think your application can handle multiple languages?
That's actually a pretty big focus for us. I mean, in the North, there's about 18 official languages across the 3 territories. So as far as the CBC interface goes, it'll handle it just the same as anything else. Mostly it's community names. It's a pre-scripted dictionary based on what you'd want to have. Those you could easily translate or wouldn't be translated as community names. As far as languages, what we'd like it to be able to do is start to recognize other languages. And we could actually start to tag Aboriginal and other Indigenous languages, and you could actually use that as a repository to find them. So we think it's a good start, using the technology that's available today with limited use languages.
And we have time for one more question.
How would your interface support the hearing impaired audience?
Well, one of the things that we've done is to actually build our interface. We had to do a transcription of the radio show. So that's available in the back end. One of the things that came up in looking at publishing it is we know CBC deals with the Languages Act, and you'd have to translate, I believe you'd have to translate anything published like the transcript. So that's certainly possible, and it certainly would work. We just knew that as an initial interface, that wouldn't be something that would probably get supported or done. So we were trying to find things that were achievable and could actually happen to make radio better in the North.
Okay, thank you very much, Team True North.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Time's up. Mathieu, c'est à votre tour.
Merci beaucoup,
Thank you very much, Nora, and congratulations. 18 official languages in the Northwest Territories. That's the kind of thing you learn in an event like this. So now we're going to go to Ottawa-Gatineau to see the prototype of HDTB team. This team is made up of Ali Stark, Stéphanie Lachance, Victoria J. Kessler-Tibbs, Luke Smith, and Matt Preston. Are you ready?
Yes, we are. Yeah, so welcome to you. So your time starts now.
Hello and bonjour. My name is Luke Smith, and we are the HDTB team. Before I introduce our prototype, the CBC Radio Canada Personal Reporter, I'd like to quickly explain our inspiration for this idea. There's just so much news. Everybody and their mother is a content creator now, and it can be really hard to keep up with what's happening in the news, especially with content viewing even more heavily towards video. If only there was a solution for this. Well, there is. Say hello to your new personal reporter. The personal reporter sends you tailor-made news by letting you subscribe to specific keywords and topics through your Google Assistant and our online newsfeed. Through Microsoft's Image Analysis API, we can add unique tags to CBC and Radio Canada content to target and notify users when an article related to your subscriptions has been posted. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Alistair and Steph, and they're going to give you a demo of the personal reporter.
Okay, so this is our web application here. So we can, using Google Assistant, we can set subscriptions, and we will get the latest content put on our feed here. So let's try it out. Okay. So, okay, Google. Talk to Personal Reporter.
Okay, let's get the test version of Personal Reporter. Welcome to Personal Reporter. I'll just need to get your name from Google. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thanks, HD. Now, let's find the news you really care about. Please say subscribe to and the topic you're interested in.
Subscribe to hockey.
Are you sure you want to subscribe to hockey?
Yes.
Successfully subscribe to hockey.
Okay, so
what would you like to do next?
Subscribe to snow.
Are you sure you want to subscribe to snow?
Absolutely.
Successfully subscribe to snow.
Okay, great. So now we can see here that our feed is filled with latest content that we've scraped from video using image analysis. So now I'm going to pass it over to Steph, who's going to talk about accessibility.
So a major objective of ours when designing the personal reporter was following accessibility guidelines and making the user experience 100% bilingual. From the URLs to the content to the conversations you have with the Google Assistant, our design accommodates a fully bilingual experience. Now, back to Luke.
So, let's summarize. The personal reporter will help CBC Radio Canada's digital engagement through targeted passive delivery of news and custom 100% bilingual subscriptions. Canadians who say no more to content overload and want to stay in the know will really feel the love of news targeted to them. And that's all. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck to all the other teams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, HDTB team. As long as you don't program a personal host, that's okay with me. Few questions here in Montreal, maybe. Maxime, yeah?
Yeah, I was wondering, in terms of reach, how many people do you think you can reach with that?
Ooh. Well, basically the entire system is based on the Google Assistant. So really having an Android device and really any other sort of AI related system, you can hook into this system. So there's really no reason for us to not be able to, as new, systems come in, Cortana, Alexa. So there's really no limit as AI keeps on improving.
I'd like to quickly add that the kind of barrier to entry for using these devices is very low and intuitive, so it kind of opens up to like a whole new range of people who might not have previously engaged with this kind of technology.
Along with that, there's a whole French flow too, so we can expand on the languages as users join.
Yeah.
Is there any questions in Toronto, Nora?
Yes, Mathieu, I think Alex has a question.
Yes. Could you share more about your technical architecture?
Yeah. Sure. Do you want to start with Google Assistant? Just quick.
Okay, so basically, we just have an integration with Google Assistant. So it's basically, we have a server, essentially, is just the Google Assistant webhook is going to our server, we're processing the data, and we're doing stuff with that data. So we wrote the whole backend API. So the API essentially grabs CBC images and analyzes the images to come up with unique tabs.
Yeah, so passing that off to the Microsoft API, which is going to our internal API, which is then handling all the very authentication and other details like the custom feed that we're creating as well, along with the front end.
Yeah, we grabbed the video, and it already comes with some tags, and we add on top of those tags, we analyze the images from the video, and we add more things as the Azure component finds it.
Yeah, so it's kind of turning like the tag system on its head. So you can define tags.
Sorry, no more time. Thank you very much, HDTB team. Alors on peut les applaudir.
Let's hear some applause. And now, here in the studio in Montreal, we have teamName. Rather meta, wouldn't you say? The team is made up of Michael Ducharme, Benjamin Comeau, Philippe Gosselin, Laurie Marceau, and François Rainville. A little bit more applause, if you will.
Bonjour, hi.
3 minutes.
On est teamName. Je me présente, je suis Michael Ducharme.
I'm Michael Ducharme. We have Laurie Marceau, François Rainville, Benjamin Comeau, and Philippe Gosselin. Our challenge start with sources of information in 2019. More and more people are using social networks for their news. The problem is that you, without verifying your sources, you can share just about anything, and false news can be shared thousands, if not millions of times. We want to take content from CBC Radio-Canada, which is high quality, diversified, and credible. And we want to apply presentation and accessibility techniques of the sort that we would get on Netflix or YouTube for personalized recommendations. In that way, we want to increase user engagement. In our research, about 90% of users consult 5 articles or less during a session. Choice of personalized content based on the behavior of the users and similar users to improve user engagement and improve compatibility with the editorial line of CBC Radio-Canada. So we created Mosaic, which is an interface which would present up to 9 articles to the user. You'll see in a short demo in a moment how this works. We presented our interface to Charles Alexandre, an electromechanical engineer who uses Facebook for news. And Charles said, I really liked the interface to access news which I know to be credible. We used Azure to provide the data. We can go back to that during the question period. Let's move on to the demonstration. When you arrive on Mosaic, sorry, I need to change the screen here. Give me a sec. Okay, there we are. When you arrive at Mosaic, you have your 9 articles at the most that are presented to the user. In either, first of all, there are articles recommended for you, articles that other people recommend, or you can change the size of the text, you can change the interface language. To the right, you have suggested reading. The one important thing was to integrate Radio-Canada CBC services. So we integrated the interface to Mosaic. So it's multilingual and multi-source that brings together the CBC Radio-Canada services in both languages. So you have access to Radio-Canada and CBC news sources. Thank you. Thank you, teamName. Let's start with a question from Montreal. Maxime, as far as your recommendation engine, how do you avoid introducing a bias? Well, we're going to base the publication of the article, the number of people who have read the article, to make sure that it's in the higher levels of trending.
Brian, vous avez une question?
Brian, you have a question? Yes. What cognitive service have you used? We used Azure Cognitive Services to extract text and images. We also used sentiment for images and titles, and we also extracted key phrases, summaries, and article body text, and comments on the articles.
Is there a question from the judges in Toronto?
Thanks, Mathieu. Do we have a question for teamName? Asu?
I think you said that you pulled content from both CBC and Radio-Canada sources. Is that what you said? Can you tell me about any challenges or learnings you had about those 2 repositories and pulling it from those 2
The main challenges was that both datasets were quite different. Some tags exist on CBC and not on Radio-Canada. So we had to make some kind of interface to merge both of the sources so that Mosaic can pull data.
Merci. On aurait du temps, une petite question.
Thank you. Maybe time for a quick question, Montreal? Okay.
Merci beaucoup, teamName.
Thank you very much, teamName. A round of applause, please.
Now back to you, Nora, in Toronto.
Merci, Mathieu. We're now inviting Team Moonshot. Team Moonshot. They're comprised of Nassam Ikoko, Dimitri Besson, Vijay Patel, Tandra Chakraborty, and Sharon Sharokitarani. Welcome. Have you had a great weekend so far?
Yeah.
Good, fantastic. Looking forward to your presentation. And your time starts now.
Hello everyone here, and my friends watching me from Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver, and Edmonton. I'm Dvija, and representing Team Moonshot. CBC has great wealth of content, like local news, great award-winning comedy shows, live music, and more. With all of these great choices, it can be challenging to know where to start. We as a team saw an opportunity for an improvement, and we are very excited to introduce you today to a CBC personality, Emmy. So we spent last 2 days bringing Emmy to life. CBC has loyal Canadian audience, and Canadians are known for their politeness. The name Emmy comes from the word amiable, and Emmy means friend in French. We wanted a name that reflects that Canadian personality. She can connect Canadians to the desired content faster and easier, and that adds to CBC's effort to increase engagement and retention. She's just 2 days old, but as she grows, users can rely on her to get their favorite content. Now I guess let's talk to Amy. Let's talk to Amy in French first. What should I ask? I'm going to ask Sharon. What are we planning to ask to? I can't hear you.
Okay, can I have the microphone? Je veux lire des articles de sport.
So I understood that she is asking for some sports content. Now Emmy is going to load us some sports content from French APIs. Now we can talk to Amy in English as well. So Amy is a conversational interface that you can ask questions, and she will deliver requested content to you. What are we asking in English? I guess she's trying to ask what's happening in the world. Let's see, international news. This is the content. Now we can ask more, or we can ask some other content. So she has radio, music content as well, so we are trying to make a request to music APIs, and that's what we got. By the way, do we have podcasts as well? Wow, she can give us podcasts too. Can we play? Can we play?
This is a CBC podcast.
So Amy is accessible, and let your friend Amy learn from you for you, in order to provide you the content that you want.
Time is up. Thank you, Moonshot. Judges, do we have any questions?
So what's the technology running your chatbot?
So right now we are using, the UI is basically on HTML, JavaScript, and jQueries, but we are using backend, you can probably talk more about the backend side.
Sure. So we split up our application into 4 separate pieces. We have the front end hosted on Azure, and we have 3 AWS Beanstalk instances in the back end. This consists of a natural language understanding unit, which takes the user input and converts that into an intention, which tells us what content they're looking for. We then built our own REST API, also hosted on AWS, which communicates with the data sources that CBC has provided, the several APIs. And then we have a piece in the middle that connects all of the pieces that communicate together.
And do we have a question from our Montreal judges?
Yeah, I think that Maxime has one.
In terms of personalization of the experience, how do you see the chatbot evolving?
Anyone wants to answer that?
Sure. So the current element of personalization is that individual users get exactly what they're asking for immediately. In the future, as we get a real user base, we would collect all of the information about how users interact with the chatbot the content that they're looking for, and we could use this to build further personalization.
We have time for one more question from our Toronto judges. Alex?
Do you have something to track my profile? For example, I like to know about news, but I like to know more about politics. If I'm asked about politics every day, do you have something to track it in terms of individual personalization?
Exactly. We integrated some specific sections to our Analeo. I guess you can talk about that. Like we captured a couple of intents right now in 2 days?
Yes, we're capturing a couple of intents right now, but as we interact with the users, so we can build more intents and make the NLU unit more smarter based on the real data that we collect from the users.
And the time is up. Thank you, Moonshot. Mathieu, à toi.
Alors maintenant, on va accueillir
and now we're going to welcome the Montreal team. And this has been very impressive, what we've seen so far today. Do we have a small snag? It's the Gringos team that I wanted to introduce. Hopefully, the problem will be resolved quickly. Let me read their names very slowly. The Gringos. And in parentheses, the text says Montreal. The team is made up of Mena Ayad. I think we're moving over to Vancouver. Looks like even by speaking very slowly, it wouldn't have solved the problem. Over to Vancouver.
In Vancouver.
Okay, are we going to Crimson Solutions or to, okay, we're going over to Vancouver, to Cohort 13. Do we have you in Vancouver?
Yes, hi.
Way to jump into the breach. All right, I'm going to let you take it away. The team is composed of Kazal Janab, Emma Conrad, Daphne Delgado, Waylon Bang, and David Sigrist. Okay, over to you.
Thank you. We are Cohort 13, and we're a student team from the Center for Digital Media in Vancouver. It's both an understatement and a cliche, but it's true. Canada is big. And although some of that space can be really nice, it also creates a divide. How do we connect people from Vancouver and St. John's? Better yet, how do we connect people in Humboldt, Saskatchewan to people in Osgood, Ontario? One of our greatest challenges as a country has always been to find the commonalities that unite us. But they do exist, and you can find them in our stories. Between Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid, from Pierre to Justin, down the Highway 1, Canada has a unique story to tell, and that's our story. And at the heart of that story, for more than 80 years, is the CBC. And this project wants to tap into that. We want to tell our story by asking about yours. This is our story. It's a supplement to the CBC website that turns news into dialogue. It allows Canadians of different ages, backgrounds, and beliefs to share their story and provides them with archived results that match their search. It's history personalized to them. This is how it works. As you can see, we ask you a question and you can answer. It provides results, and you can select on different articles to learn more about what interests you the most. What's interesting as well is that we've kept the question up at the top of the screen. So this is a continuing dialogue with different questions that really seems like a conversation. But it's more than just the user interface. It's also about providing CBC with data about their users. And we're not just talking how long they spend on each page, we're talking about what interests them the most? What do they relate to? What stories speak to them? And beyond that, we're talking about the connections that you can form when someone in Calgary and someone in Nunavut have the same artist, and how, though their lives seem distinct, they have these ties that bring them together. Our story not only serves to better use, of course, the product is accessible and would easily be available in both English and French. As it's part of the CBC website, accessibility was an easy step. Our story not only serves to better use one of CBC's most valuable resources, the archives, but it also allows Canadians the chance to express their personal, regional, and national stories. It's about turning news into a dialogue, and it's about turning ideas into a conversation about relationships and interests and memories. And what's more personal than that? Thank you.
Thank you, Cohort 13 in Vancouver. So let's see what our judges in Toronto thought. Michelle, do you have a question?
Sure. Cool project, guys. I'm seeing the part where you can search the archives, but I didn't understand how you're forming a conversation with different people after that.
Yeah, so it's about the story between like the CBC right now, between the CBC and the archives and the one person. So once they answer the first question, they see those results, they get further questions, and they can sort of, those questions can become more personal. So what's your hometown, and you know, what year were you born, and what happened in Canada the year or the day you were born. And ideally, what we would take from that is that we can start to log these results, and if there was some sort of login session or way to track the results, you could relate people to other people that had answered the same way.
I see.
And do we have a question from our Montreal judges?
Yes, from Maxime.
Yes, so what's the tech stack that you've been using for developing this?
Yeah, I will let.
The work environment. For the backend, we developed all the website on the AWS environment, and we retrieved the data from the API, making a website search that already is in the cbc.ca archives. So that's where we are retrieving everything, and we are making it accessible in our website and also responsive.
And we have time for another question from our Toronto judges. Sue?
How might you make sure that the person that you're interacting with is a human?
Yep. You go for it.
Actually, do you like to go for it? I mean, to the degree that it's integrated into the CBC website, it would have to depend on the same spam protection that there is already in the system. So the same securities that exist within the current CBC API would protect that.
Okay. Thank you, Cohort 13. Time is up. Matthew, c'est à toi. I think we've resolved the technical problems.
Yeah. Alors maintenant, je vais vous présenter.
I now really am going to introduce the participants of the Gringos team: Mena Ayad, Nicolas Debré, Daniel Vandolder, Victor Debré, and Alec Parent. Let's applaud the Gringos. You have 3 minutes as of now.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. We're tackling the problem of user involvement and personalization within news applications. And the first thing we thought about when we were looking at this problem was Candy Crush. I know that sounds crazy, but even the Congresswoman of Bonnie Clydeman is playing this game during the Trump inauguration. We're trying to figure out why the heck she's playing this game and not looking at news. So we decided that, what's happening? Okay, that the reason is because in this generation, we are looking at people who have short attention span, a fast-paced lifestyle, and expect personalization. And news is definitely not that, especially in this, of what we have right now. So we are the Gringos. This is Mina, Victor, and Nicholas, and, well, Alec, who unfortunately could not make it. And I am Danielle, and I am excited to present to you Espresso News with the help of CBC Radio Canada. This application, this Android web application is based around personalizing content, creation of short audio podcasts that are based around your own preferences. These audio podcasts are text to speech, so we take the CBC API and bring it in and convert it through Poly through speech, text to speech. And now we're going to show the demo. Okay. So this is the sign-in screen. Where's the mouse? Okay, there it is. Okay, this is the sign-in screen. Basically, it's very easy. Just put your email and put password, and you just click in. And the first thing you'll see is going to be your podcast audio clips of each news article that is recommended for you to listen to. And all you have to do is click this play button, kind of like any music app that you listen to.
Put the sound.
Is there sound? Okay. So basically, the Polly reads the text, and you can actually click in to it and see the details of all the podcasts. So you can either plug in your headphones and just listen, or if you're in the metro or in the subway, you can just click in and actually read along while you listen to the audio as well. And of course, the recommendation engine we're going to be using is based around your preferences. And we have a tab that shows your preferences here. And we have two options. Right now it's just cat or dog, but it could be like politics, a politician person. And you click on the one that's your most preferable for. And then, yeah, that's how we do it.
Cat or dog? Tough choice.
Yes.
Est-ce qu'on a une question ici?
Do we have a question here?
Brian.
Brian.
Could
you explain how you use the platform?
The technology platform behind the recommendation engine?
Donc oui, on utilise l'API
yes,
CBC.
we've used the CBC API. We grabbed the whole text thanks to their content architecture. So we gather the whole text and then we send it directly to the serverless AWS architecture. And with the Poly-generated broadcast is recorded, and the API enables us to directly read it on Android.
A question from our judges in Toronto.
Do we have a question for the Gringos? Yes, Alex.
What do you see as a next step for your project?
So the next step for our project would be personalizing it better. For now, we're gathering the data from the lineups that are provided by CBC. We've started the configuration of SageMaker to make it more personalizable, and with the screen personalization that you saw. And yeah, that would be the next step. And on my part, with Nicolas, we were looking forward to this hackathon to have an idea to do a project, a concrete project in next month, and we'll be continuing to work on this project.
On a du temps pour une dernière question ici.
We have time for a last question here.
Non? Pas
No?
dernière question? Oui, Brian?
Yes, Brian.
Did you have the right data in order to support the application?
So yeah, the data, what do you mean by right data?
The data was, the data that was available to you was able to support what you were trying to do?
Yeah, totally. So we are able to support French, English, or whatever data that is pulled by any API because we made it modular. Yeah.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you to the Gringos. Great job. And now we're going to go back to Toronto.
On your side.
We're now inviting Team Crimson Solutions. Here in Toronto, the team is composed of Grace Ma, Stephen Jung, Wilson Wei, Haoyang Ding, and Frank Liu. Welcome. Have you had a good weekend?
Oh, I think we did, yeah.
Great, okay, well, I'll leave you to it. Take it away.
Great. Perfect. So, my name is Frank. I'm joined today by Grace, Wilson, Stephen, and Haoyang. We represent Crimson Solutions. And together we're presenting Project Vitalize. The journalism industry today faces a couple key issues. The first and foremost, you guys are fighting in a medium called social media for external traffic that's going to be coming in. And we realize how competitive it is. So we realize some of the key issues we have to address is to build loyalty within the few engagers that we do have. And how we plan on doing that is through two ways. The first way is recommending articles within the short span of time they already spent on the CBC site. So we developed a machine learning algorithm, which we'll go into in a second. And the second is to help CBC better align its content through a content analytics dashboard that can review the trends and the traffic patterns currently CBC users are utilizing. So moving forward, let me quickly explain what exactly is going on in the technical architecture for our software. So article data provided by CBC is called through a JSON. We do a JSON call, which is sent into the AWS S3 buckets and sent into Amazon AWS Comprehend. We utilize two functions. The first one is topic modeling, and the second one was sentiment analysis. And then utilizing those two functions, we put it into what we developed, what we call a neural network-based learning model. And taking this model, the network is meant to generate the next article we expect the user to read. So let's move on to some renders that we are expecting users to be looking at. So we optimize first and foremost also the user experience that would be going on here. If we were to move on to the next one, you can also see, so this will be a live demonstration of exactly what would go on. With the optimized user experience and the learning model working in place, at the very end, we can have a set of articles tailored for the users who engage with us. And if we move on to a single article, we can also see on the right side handbar, there is also a set of related articles generated by our learning model. And if we click into the image, we get to look at something that we were looking to build for this hackathon, which is a content analytics dashboard. Here, you get to see where traffic is coming through by geographic location and the span of time, which time frame they were coming in. And this is meant to reflect for senior managers exactly whether or not their content is satisfactory for the traffic that's coming in. Perfect. So we can now execute, I believe, a short demo of the code. Perfect. So I know this all might look a little messy. What it actually is, within the lists that are coming out here, these are IDs assigned to articles. And assigned within these articles, we have a user attached to them. We are essentially saying this user, with this user ID, is most likely going to read this piece of article next. Perfect. And that's
Thank you, Crimson Solutions.
No problem. Thank you. Go ahead.
And now to our judges. Who has a question for Crimson Solutions?
What was the most interesting thing you learned by building a neural network on our news?
Pardon me, sir?
What was the most interesting thing you learned from building a neural network on the CBC News?
I'll let my devs answer that. Go ahead.
I feel like the most interesting part was just picking out how should we approach this problem, because we were given like a large amount of data to work with through the APIs, so we could have like types of article, the body of the article. Like in the end, we settled on like sending the data to AWS to get sentiment and keywords or categories, kind of. So I think that was the most interesting part, to see like how we even tackle the problem.
Thank you, Crimson Solutions. Do we have a question in Montreal?
Yes. How do you not create a bubble effect with this algorithm?
Sorry?
I mean, by having a recommendation engine, you potentially create a funnel or a bubble effect with it. So how you would not create that with your algorithm? Because we're the CBC and Radio-Canada, so basically we want to make sure all the content is discoverable. So we want to make sure there's no filter with only the things that I like, but I'm also available to, it's also available to discover all kind of content from CBC and Radio-Canada.
Well, our algorithm only really looks through a pool of articles for now. So what we're trying to do with this is maybe on a page of recommended articles, we'll give you 5 articles, and then the rest will be all like random articles that you can discover.
And also in terms of how we designed the web page, it's not just giving you recommended articles through our algorithm, but also related articles in the same topic, and also just the trending news as well.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question from Toronto, if we do. Alex?
Which model did you use for your neural network?
Well, currently we don't have like a fully built model. So currently we're using kind of like a very basic linear or multivariate regression-based solution. And we're trying to expand that later on with an actual neural network.
Okay, thank you, Crimson Solutions. À toi, Mathieu.
Okay, and now we're going to introduce Low 5, a Montreal team made up of Vincent Bélanger, William Fortin, Joël Auchu, Guillaume Simard, and Jonathan Rochette. Welcome, gentlemen. You have 3 minutes as of now. We're Low5, and we decided to attack a problem of the day, fake news. Fake news is more or less equivalent to social media, which is the source of many people's so-called news. A lot of people expect their news, thus sorts, to be fake. The CBC has means of fighting misinformation at its core, and we thought that it would be important to inject unbiased, credible content and build trust between the user and the recommended content by personalizing it in the most unbiased and protected way possible. First of all, by positioning, then the distribution for CBC RC content, and thirdly, through augmented traffic through social media. Our product is going to be very scalable. It's a Chrome extension that's embedded on Twitter, and we're going to quickly move on to a demonstration. If I'm John Smith and I get my information on Twitter, and I've installed the Source application, you can see that Source enters the Twitter feed and gives me more information on a tweet. So if I look at this tweet from Donald Trump, there'll be a search on this CBC articles, and we'll add them to the tweet. And there's a panel on one side that looks at the Twitter feed as a whole to look at the various topics and extract some themes in which there are articles that are relevant from CBC and Radio-Canada. All of this is super accessible, navigable via the keyboard. This works in English, it works in French, and it works all over Twitter, not just on the main feed. For instance, here we have Jeff Fillion talking about Théo Taxi. If you want something a little bit more nuanced, you can look at the source and see articles that will enable us to refine our opinion on the subject. So that's the Twitter integration. In terms of scalability, we could look at other browsers and other social media. But the important thing is that be implemented in the CBC RC app ecosystem. And here's an evolution that is already underway that will enable us to apply the principle to the entire web. Here has a Medium article. I can select some text in here, and I click on Source, and it will pull up articles. Thank you. You got it all in. You got it all in. You have to sit on your suitcase, but okay. Thank you, Low5. Over to our jury for their questions. I think Brian has a question to start with. Could you explain the platform you used and what services on the platform you used to develop your application? It's all based on AWS and a little bit Microsoft. We use AWS as the container service. We also used Elasticache and Comprehend for the selection of themes. Those are the main services we used. Nora.
Yes, do we have a question? Michelle has a question for Low5.
This is a really cool project. So when you click on that button to see the source, how do you ensure, because the whole point of this is that you're seeing both sides of the argument, how do you ensure that you're getting content that is giving both sides of the argument? Maybe CBC only has one article on the subject. Are you adding additional content sources, and how are you making sure that your source content is not biased?
Well, we're basing ourselves on the fact that Radio-Canada's CBC's articles are neutral. We analyze each tweet, we analyze the words in it, and we try to reference as many articles as possible. Maybe there's only one, but in most cases, we would be able to present a wide range of opinions. Maybe there's time for a last question in Montreal. Maxime. Could you explain how you could make this application work in different destinations? Is it a Chrome extension? For the prototype, it's a Chrome extension connected to Twitter and other pages for text selection. We have screen workups, but it's very portable. The idea was text as input and pages as output. As far as mobility concerns, if I have a Radio-Canada account or my Reddit or Twitter account, I can scan my articles because people are looking at my feed. Thank you very much. Very interesting indeed.
Nora, do you have someone for us in Toronto?
Yes, I do, actually. Well, I have somebody in Edmonton. We're going out to see PayPal Gang in Edmonton. The team is composed of Abid Rahman, Megnath Ramesh, and Arjun Kalburgi. Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we can.
Good. Are you ready to present?
Yes, we are.
All right, fantastic. Take it away.
Cool. So my name is Arjun. This is Megnath, and Abid is at home. We are the PayPal Gang. That's what we like to call ourselves. And our project is engaging imagery. Let me just switch to screen share. All right. Right. So engaging imagery, personalized to engage you. Okay. So the way we thought about our project is that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we want to leverage them. We want to personalize the CBC radio website by providing our users with nice big images that relate to them. We can do this by assigning a persona to each viewer, by tracking keyword entities from their read data, and then choose imagery that matches the CBC content to that persona. All right, so the way we did this was we took the original read data given to us, and then we added the description and section titles to that data. We then reorganized all that data and used noun chunking used the section titles to create this user's persona. So as you can see here, user 0's persona is around world politics, and user 1's persona is around technology. For the CBC content, we used the example of radio shows. So we took the radio show data from the audio API and created content metadata using Google's natural language processing to look for entities in the description. So now we have our metadata and we have our persona. We combine them. So you can see here the keywords are for that user 0 are from the persona as well as the metadata. And then we used Pexel's API to do an image lookup to get this picture. And so what we're left with is personalized content for the 2 different users. Let's check it out. All right, so on the left, we have that user 0, whose data was around world politics, as you can see here, world politics. And on the right, we have data on technology. We made sure that our sites are accessibility friendly by checking that all our text size is above 13 pixels, as well as the color contrast is okay. So now we have our nice big pictures that are with engaging images in the back. To compare to the current CBC shows homepage, this is the old one, and this is what we've created. All right, so in summary, we took the read data audio API and the Pixels API and deployed both to our web app and the API to AWS. In the future, we'd like to remove the Pexels API and have our own images. But yeah, we like to provide value by personalizing content to entice our viewers.
Thank you, PayPal Gang. Nice to see people focusing on the radio side of things. Judges, what did you think? Do you have a question for PayPal Gang? Alex?
Sure. Could you tell me more how you create metadata? This part is not clear for me.
Right. Sure thing. So the metadata, do you want me to go back to the slides? Yeah, I can do that. The slides, we went through them really quickly.
So we basically use the Google natural language processing to analyze the description of each show to understand what they're about. So we go through the show, we go through the description, we get main entities that the show is about. So it talks about 180 degrees Canadians and country, and for the user, we do a similar process to understand what the user has read and what the user is interested about, and try to match an image that describes the show and the user's persona well using the Pexels API and a bunch of natural language processing using Google API.
And do we have a question from Montreal?
Yes, Maxime.
So guys, with all the images you're using and the different personas, how would you address accessibility?
Right, so this I think was in that slide where we talked about the future. I think that the better thing to do would be to have our own CBC set of images that kind of we've already verified instead of using Pexels API. So that's one way. And then the other design side of things is we already checked the color contrast and the text size for all of the backgrounds when you hover. And so those are kind of like the two ways that we maintain accessibility.
Do we have one more quick question from our judges in Toronto? Okay, I think that will about do it for PayPal Gang. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Mathieu, over to you.
Yeah, alors maintenant, merci Nora.
So, thank you, Nora. We're going to move on to a team that's called itself Les Niaiseux, the Bozos.
For our English-speaking audience, we could translate this by, I don't know, lowering expectations. That's clever. Alors, les Niaiseux sont composés.
Les Niaiseux are made up of Clémence de Robert, François Trudel, Joël Jean Langlois, Michael Doré-Nuyen, and Omar Zakaria. 3 minutes.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Hi there, everybody. We're here to talk about audio. You know this already, but audio is the new favorite media of Canadians. 10 million Canadians listen to podcasts regularly. And even so, 10 million is a significant figure, and it continues to go up. Despite the popularity of podcasts and the quantity of content, users say that they have difficulty coming up with new audio content they're interested in. So that's where we come in. We are thinking about listeners who are already interested in news, and we want to help them find what they're looking at. So we want to move from general reading to personalized listening using content that already exists at Radio-Canada CBC. So how is it going to work? When they sign up at our Radio-Canada service, they can select the subjects that interest them the most, let's say these 4, and you click on Start. So if they go to the regular site that that's already accessible to them, they can click on an article, but now they're going to have audio recommendations corresponding to the subject that they're reading or that they've read in the past. And they're going to be able to listen to the audio at the same time. So they could listen to excerpts and save them for later. And if they find that this audio solution is useful, they could move on to the discovery mode, where they would have a list that is based on their reading, and they can play it continuously while they're doing something else. We showed this to users, and they confirmed that the option of having short audio clips was very interesting. And in terms of accessibility, all pages are acceptable. I didn't mention this, but if you want to use a different theme, you can change the contrasts for people with visual problems and switch from English to French. How do we do this? We started by analyzing the audio content by using Amazon Transcribe, and then analyzing the quantity of texts and identifying these subjects with Amazon Comprehend. Then we look at the interests chosen by the user, their readership background, and this provides relevant content and could be extended to Alexa. For instance, you could say, Alexa, ask Radio-Canada to play me podcasts of interest to me. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Let's take a question from our Montreal judges. What is the most difficult aspect of your project? We tackled the challenge of optimizing the audios, the uploads IS3 transcription, and the analysis and extraction of the entities, the analysis of the entities to create a database that we can do searches. So automation of that was quite a challenge, but I think we succeeded about 95%. We're very proud. Thank you.
A question for our judges in Toronto, Nora.
Do we have a question? Yes.
Could you tell me more about how you correlate the information from the main news with the others? Like, how are you linking both to be sure that it's relevant based on the main text?
So what we do is we put them on the same level. So we start by, we analyze both the news story and the audio to extract the entities, the themes or the subject, and we try to find correlation. So basically, what we were able to do is a basic search between both. So we start with the news and we do a search on the audio to find correlation between the two using those extracted entities.
Une dernière question ici à Montréal.
A final question here in Montreal, Maxime. We haven't heard the demo functioning. Does it function? Well, the data are there. We have a problem with the player, which can't generate the audio yet. But everything is in place aside from that. That's the part that's missing. Thank you. Well, at least, see, these are honest niaiseux or bozos. Thank you very much.
Back to you, Nora, in Toronto for the last team.
Yes, we're getting close to the end. Our last team in Toronto is Dyson Sphere Smart Summaries. The team is composed of Margie McCloskey, Zikai Chen, Charlotte Baker, Jonathan Smith, and Angela Crone. Welcome. All right, take it away.
In a world with overwhelming amounts of information, everyone deserves equal access to the news. Hello, everyone. We are Dyson Sphere, and we're here to show you our prototype for CBC News personalization. First, let's talk about the problem space. In 2017, a survey came out talking about how more than 10 million Canadians listen to the news, listen to podcasts specifically. This was an increase of 41% from the previous year, showing that this is a huge area of growth where we can focus engagement growth in the future. We think that we can improve engagement to CBC by targeting these users, and we believe personalization can be applied to audio in the same way that it's applied to text, as talked about by other participants. But with personalization comes the risk of an echo chamber effect, creating a sphere where people are just listening and looking at news that they're already interested in. To avoid this, Dyson Sphere wants to provide the same content with a unique perspective to each user. Our podcast is going to focus on audio as well as text transcriptions from the audio to increase accessibility, and we're going to use existing infrastructure that's already in the audio space of CBC. The old way is that before you had access to the entirety of audio, you'd only see like a quick summary, and then you'd have to listen to a whole podcast to know really what it was about. In our solution, we're showing you specific pieces of it that are relevant to your personal interests. So topic A could be suggested to one person, topic B could be suggested to another. This uses contextual banded approach as well as topic modeling to provide a unique perspective to each user as they're listening to the podcast. A visual way to show this is that we have Clara. Clara is a 26-year-old person from Toronto. She's very interested in lifestyle news. Compared to Bob, he is a 53-year-old man from Calgary, and he's very interested in business. Normally, they wouldn't be necessarily drawn to the same articles, but with the Dyson Sphere solution, Clara would hear a summary that says, simply put, your phone will be your digital identity everywhere, pointing towards an article on the BlackBerry Accelerator program, whereas Bob would be the same, another port from the same podcast, the Canada-based Spark team teamed up with the BlackBerry Q. So he's very interested in the business side of things. So to demo this, our application, as you click on it, hopefully, it's playing an audio summary. We've had a bit of difficulties showing you the audio, but it's playing a snippet from the podcast, and you can see the text up at the top is a piece of that podcast that's specifically recommended for Clara. It flows from one podcast to the next to show you that it's like a summary that you can just listen to, so it's a personalized podcast for you, but provides you the same access to the same articles to both people with different fronts. Here you can see the same articles as well for Bob. That's the audio. A different snippet from the same article shows, and if you click into it, if you click into the content, you see the entire text transcription of the audio podcast.
All right, thank you to Dyson Sphere Smart Summaries. Thank you. And one last round of questions from our judges.
Sure. Tell me more about the architecture, please.
Yeah, so we're using AWS in the backend, using the transcription and the comprehend techniques, and then we built the contextual bandit-based approach, which then takes for every article the relevant sections for the user, and then puts that in front of the user in the regular ordering of things. We built this on top of Android as well to present just the mobile application, because we think most people are listening to audio on the go, and this is a really good way to get in front of users.
And we have a question from our Montreal judges.
Yeah, could you talk a bit about what were your main challenges on the project?
Yeah. One of the main challenges is that we're dealing with a lot of different topics and different users, and we don't have a lot of previous information from just the read data on how we want to do topic-based for audio. And also, the contextual bandit approach is one that is very, very new in the industry. Like last year, there was a paper published on it, and so we're kind of working in new ground. So working without a lot of the original code is hard, and so we had to try and make up our own approaches that were similar here. We think this is really cool, though, because it's an approach no other news company is doing and showing the same articles but with different sections that are relevant to the user. So this is something that would really benefit CBC if they implemented it.
And I think we have time for one last question from Toronto.
We might not have enough time for this, but for sort of opinion-based content, that's not, just like about the BlackBerry product, but how would this, can you elaborate on your approach to avoid the echo chamber effect?
Yeah, so the idea would be you might be interested in an opinion piece about Donald Trump because you like to follow everything that he writes or says, and your friend might be interested in the piece because it's about the environment, and we are able to pick up these different pieces separately.
All right, thank you so much to Dyson Sphere Smart Summaries. And Mathieu, back to you for, I think, our last team.
Yeah, de la dernière équipe à Toronto à la dernière
from the last team in Toronto to the last team in Montreal. And it's called Tensorflow, as TF, a little artificial intelligence allusion. So we have Julien Beaupré, Ismaël Balafrège, Cédric Ménard, Antoine Mercier, and Adam Letourneau. So it's up to you to give the final presentation. Hello, everyone. Keywords. One of the keywords today is flexibility. This is how we consume multimedia content anywhere, at any time. And this is true of news as well. What we realized is that as far as the news is concerned, the newscasts are not flexible. You have to be there when they're broadcast, and the times are chosen by the broadcaster, not by the users, which is why standard television is beginning to decline. It's due to lack of flexibility. But if you look at new media types, such as podcasts, they are growing. So we're interested in podcasts in particular because they are flexible and they are popular. This is why we want to present personalized and interactive news broadcasts. And it generates personal content. It can be used alongside the existing apps. Okay, the first stage is analyzing and predicting what the user is interested in on the basis of their preferences or similar uses using a collaborative model. Secondly, using AI, if the user agrees, we can create a summary. And we can take audio from the article, from using text-to-speech, and a video based on images in the article. This is very interesting because, for instance, you can, if you're driving and you can hear something on the podcast, or if you're home, you can look at an article that's based on your choices. And now let's see quickly how this works. In the application, you see three categories at the top. The most popular, and you see articles below. So let's look at news. And are we going to be in transit with audio, or is it going to be video, where we see? So subtitles are included so that you can read the article along with the images. So let's come back, okay? And you can directly change the language and go to CBC rather than Radio-Canada by changing the language in your settings. And we want to integrate another functionality, which is Chrome widgets, so that while you're reading at home on our navigator, you can hit a button and you can continue to read it on your browser along with the audio. So, over to our judges for some of the last questions of this hackathon. So, what about the technology? Okay, we use a lot of services from Azure, particularly the VMs that are cloud-based. And through clustering, we're able to select articles that we want to propose to our readers. We used a text-to-speech from Microsoft Azure, and we can generate audio from the text. And we used Microsoft Azure to build summaries that can be reduced to produce faster audio. And we have an Android application that's operating on a simulator, laptop. They all communicate together using Azure on the cloud.
Question in Toronto, Nora.
Do we have a question from our judges here? No? Okay. Back to you, Mathieu.
Une question ici à Montréal.
A question here in Montreal. It seems that it was incredibly clear. Okay, Radio-Canada at the Téléjournal, they have a particular way of delivering the news through TV personalities. How do you deal with that? Well, you can choose a number of parameters, intonation, speed, and the sort of thing. So if somebody's having difficult understanding or are hard of hearing, they can play the audio more slowly or ask for a greater degree of summaring, thanks to the cognitive system in Azure.
Est-ce qu'on pourrait prendre la voix de Bernard de Rome, par exemple?
Can we use Bernard de Rome's voice? No, but a woman or a man, and even in English and French. French from France, French from Quebec. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tensorflow. You're our last team from Montreal. So the die is cast. Thanks to all our participants. It's very hard to simply arrive after 2 days of ceaseless work and find the energy to make a presentation. And this is true in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver,
yes, absolutely. We were
and
really
Edmonton.
impressed with how much people were able to put together. I should say that as the presentations were rolling out, we heard from CBC's accessibility manager who's following along and was saying how impressed they were and how appreciative they were that so many people included accessibility questions in their presentations and addressed that in their presentations. Okay, now time for our judges to excuse themselves with the unenviable task of deliberating and figuring out our awards. And while they do that, take some time to take a break, but don't go too far. We'll let you know when the judges are ready to announce the winners. Thank you to everyone who's been following us on Facebook and YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 30 to 60 minutes. Thank you.
Eh bien, ben voilà,
Well,
tout le monde, bonjour.
welcome again to one and all. This is the time we have been waiting for, the Radio-Canada CBC Hackathon 2019. Those who have been following on Facebook, YouTube, and elsewhere, the jury has come to a conclusion. But before going any further, to wrap up this hackathon, I would like to express my great admiration for all of the teams who have taken part. I'm always surprised how remarkable these people have been able to perform in terms of coming up with functional prototypes in such a short space of time. So I want all of us to show our appreciation to all of our participants. Congratulations, one and all. Bravo, and especially when you have to come up and present. The work itself is difficult enough, but everybody was up to the challenge. Remarkable. I would like to introduce Brian Can, Microsoft Executive Director for Sales in Eastern Canada. He's going to come up to present the Xbox One as the participation award. Brian, what is Microsoft's interest in participating in a hackathon like this? First of all, I would like to start by congratulating all the teams. They did a remarkable job. At Microsoft, what we're looking for is the ability of teams to use the resources of Microsoft to produce results. And I think we've seen some pretty good results. Now, at a hackathon, are these the kind of people you're looking for as an employer?
No, tout à fait.
Absolutely. Their expertise, their passion, their ability to come up with something completely new and original, these are people that business in Montreal and elsewhere in Canada will be looking for. So we're going to do a little draw here. I have a little bag from which you can draw a name. Okay, the winner is Daphne Delgado. Delgado. Where is Daphne? Oh, she's in Vancouver. Great. Well, congratulations, Daphne. There we are. Is that not the right one? No, no. Okay. That works. Okay. Good. Thank you very much, Ryan. We're in Canada. You can expect logistic problems. So thank you, Brian. Over to you, to Nora.
Always a couple of hiccups when it's live, right? Thanks for that, Mathieu. I would now like to invite Alex Coquiero, Public Sector Solutions Architect Manager at Amazon Web Services, to join me on stage to give the Best Student Team Award. The winning team will receive expert advice from Amazon Web Services in a 2-day workshop. The workshop will include 1 day of technical training that will be a deep dive into AWS services. It covers essential cloud concepts, computing, networking, database, and storage. And the 2nd day workshop will review, assess, and optimize the proof of concept of the winning team. Fantastic. Mr. Coquiero, this is the first year that Amazon has partnered with CBC Radio-Canada to produce a hackathon. So what influenced Amazon's decision to join up with us?
Sure. In Amazon, there's 3 aspects that's really important for us as a business. First, scale, then collaboration, then inspire. And since the first time that you invited us to come here, we were able to identify immediately those 3 aspects. Because scale is about not touching a couple of groups, but able to create something that's able to touch in all the world. Collaboration, because alone you can go fast, but in a group you can go further. Yes. And the last, inspire, because really looking for people who embrace challenge to change the world And those things that we have seen here today is definitely good examples of it.
Yes.
For that said, in behalf of Amazon, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yes, it's been great to have you on board. Thank you so much. Well, I'm sure people are eager to get to the winners. You have the names there.
Yeah, and the winner is Crimson Solutions.
Here in Toronto, Wilson Wei, Frank Liu, Hoyang Din, Stephen Jung, and Grace Ma.
Good job. Impressive. I love the model.
Thank you.
I love your explanation about the model.
Thank you.
And you, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great job.
So this means we see you next weekend?
Absolutely, it'll be a pleasure.
We have photos with the giant
Photos
novelty
time.
check.
Yep. You like to hold it? It's all yours now.
So how does it feel, guys?
Really good. Really good. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, we feel really thankful for this experience. We look forward to next week.
Yeah, I really want to say thank you. You guys, we're not actually from all the same schools. I'm from Ryerson. She's from Waterloo. He's from U of T, also Ryerson, and Western. Yeah. So thanks to my team for coming together. I really appreciate CBC for hosting this. This was a really wonderful experience, and really look forward to doing it again.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crimson Solutions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Nora.
Thank you, Nora and David. Now, Maxime Saint-Pierre, President of the jury and Executive Director for Digital Affairs at Radio-Canada. He's going to award $1,000 as an anniversary and an Xbox for the team that makes best use of Radio-Canada, CBC's data and other resources. You're back for the third time. Why did you come back? Well, we like challenges, and I think with today's technology, there are plenty of challenges to attempt to overcome. I think we need to challenge the status quo, especially for a public broadcaster, and to use a CBC Radio-Canada format that raises the level of difficulty, but we're always trying to innovate. And in this context, we have our lab that does incubation. You've got the RC Lab coordinates at the bottom of the screen. We're very heavy on innovation. We want to generate value and come up with people we can cooperate and collaborate with. So the initiative has really taken on scale compared to 2-3 years ago. We're in a completely different order of magnitude. Yes, we started small, but every year the event has grown and a lot of people have committed. So now we're already looking at what's going to be done for next year. Now, who is going to be the recipient of the digital prize? Well, the winners are Low 5. Let me get the envelope.
Low 5, pourquoi? Parce que
Low 5, why? Well, because we really liked the idea. We thought it was scalable. It was based on a vision. We could see that it would apply to a variety of platforms. The scalability was perhaps key to our decision. And there was also the idea of personalization and finding the right balance between information on different platforms. Anything more that you would like to add? Thanks to Radio-Canada, CBC. We had a lot of fun. We're passionate and energetic, and Elodie, our coach, deserves a word of congratulations as well. Well, thank you, and thank you. We didn't even have to wait for the bell.
Des notes. Bravo donc à l'équipe.
What sense of concision. Amazing. So, low 5. I was about to say low life, but I definitely won't go there. That would have been a terrible lapsus.
I'd like to invite Sue Kim, Executive Director of Media Operations at CBC, to give out the award for CBC digital products. Sue, this is the first time that CBC's participated in a hackathon. So what are the benefits for an organization like CBC of getting involved in something like this?
I think it's threefold. One is we get to co-create with the developer community and give the developer community a glimpse into our world. Second, we also give the opportunity for the broader community to take a look at our building blocks, our content, our platform, and I hope you had a good time playing with those. And then thirdly, I think it helps CBC sort of give you an idea of what it's like, what kind of stuff we do here, and what it's like maybe to work here. And yes, we're hiring.
So this award is given to the personalization project that makes the best use of CBC's content, products, and data. Sue?
And the winner is Dyson Sphere.
Here in Toronto, Angela Crone, Jonathan Smith, Charlotte Baker, Zikai Chen, and Margie McCloskey. Come on up.
Congratulations.
So Sue, maybe you could just suggest what stood out for you about their project.
The judges really liked the fact that you took an approach to address the growing problem of finding quality news that has integrity, and it's an area that the CBC Radio Canada is preoccupied with, for obvious reasons. Thank you.
C'est maintenant le tour de Catherine Tate,
now, Catherine Tate, CEO of CBC Radio-Canada, is going to come up on the stage to provide an exceptional award, or outstanding award rather, a value of $2,000 per winning participant for the development of a prototype that stands out by its originality, its technical quality, its impacts, its scalability, and its durability. A few words, perhaps, to begin. Why is personalization of Radio-Canada CBC content so important for it to become a theme? Well, we are a public broadcaster, and we want to serve our consumers where they happen to be. And we have to find the right ways of reaching out to them. So we want to reach as many people as possible. How does that work with personalization? Well, it's complicated. That's why we have teams working on the subject. So what is the winning team? Because we have $2,000 per participant. That's significant. What team have been selected? It's a great pleasure to say that it's True North who has been selected as the winners.
The team True North from Yellowknife. Voilà.
True North from Yellowknife.
Congratulations to Yellowknife. I don't know how you do this. Je sais, Maxime,
how does it feel?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're happy to be down here from the north, and we're happy for the opportunity. We're also happy to bring some digital services back up north where, you know, we have a unique situation. We're the last 0.01%, and we're happy to bring services to touch all Canadians. So thank you, CBC.
And just we're looking forward to seeing this kind of functionality on the CBC website.
You can hold us to it. Thank you so much.
Can I say
I'll turn
something?
it
Est-ce
back
que je peux
to
dire quelque
Montreal.
chose?
Nora, Catherine would like to say something to the winners.
So I just want to congratulate the les gagnants. I was in the north. I haven't visited Iqaluit, but I did visit. I visited Iqaluit. I haven't visited Yellowknife, but I want to say how important our services are in the north, and your prototype absolutely goes to the heart of what it is we're trying to accomplish in local communities. So bravo to the team.
Merci beaucoup, bravo True North. Alors, c'est ce qu'on peut appeler un voyage payant.
That really was a worthwhile trip they made. And I think, Catherine, you have a few words that you would like to say to us. Thank you, Mathieu. Welcome and good day, our dear innovators. There's quite a buzz here in Montreal, and it's wonderful to see.
I would say enjoyable days that I've spent since joining CBC Radio-Canada to see all of the le talent, la diversité dans nos équipes.
The diversity of teams that we've heard from today, and personally for me to see the women.
People from across the country and to see women participating in this hackathon. So merci pour votre participation.
Thank you for your participation. Bravo for your efforts. Innovation is the guarantee of our success at Radio-Canada CBC in the digital era. We did studies in neuroscience with the assistance of the Beam Me Up startup, and they came up with some optimized content to maximize engagement.
In Canada to develop skills and allow both English and French-speaking Canadians to get access to news. Can you imagine going, hello, Alexa, give me the CBC News, and you didn't get anything? So thank you for that. I've been in this job for a little over 6 months, and I'm so proud, really, really proud, and thank you so much, Maxime, and toute l'équipe ici à Montréal and Toronto.
All of the team here in Montreal and Toronto.
Really, most impressive event. Innovation and creativity are so strong, and I'm so thrilled to witness alive and well at CBC Radio-Canada. And we have to do more, keep doing more of these. I don't know, hackathons for the whole country, let's get high school students in here. It's really fantastic. Alors, je vous encourage.
So I encourage you to take inspiration from this event to push innovation further forward day after day. And thanks to all of the Radio-Canada CBC people who have worked on the organization. Mathieu, thanks, Nora.
You guys rock. Thank you so much. What a wonderful event. Merci.
Merci. Catherine Tate, présidente directrice générale
Catherine Tate, CEO of CBC Radio-Canada.
Thank you, Catherine. What a fantastic day it's been here. It's been so inspiring to see all of your work being presented today. Now is the time to give thanks to everyone. Naturally, I'll start with my colleague Mathieu Dugal for his dynamic energy and his support throughout the project. Our amazing judges, Sue Kim, CBC's Executive Director of Media Operations, Michelle Romano, Dragon from Dragon's Den and co-founder of Clearbank, also Alex Coquero, Public Sector Solutions Architect Manager for Amazon Web Services. Mathieu?
Merci, Nora.
Thank you, Nora. The same to you. Thank you so much for cooperating so magnificently over the space. It's been great, and from here in Montreal, we've had a great team, not only of presenters, but mentors and other participants in the hackathon. And, of course, Brian Macon, Regional Director for Microsoft, and Maxime Saint-Pierre, our question askers. Thank you to all of us amazing partners, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, Libio, Evado, Agorize, and ISTM.
And finally, a very warm thank you to all our volunteers, mentors, experts, and to our technical crew who did an amazing job supporting us this weekend. Winners and judges, please stick around in Montreal, Toronto, or virtually for a group photo to capture the moment. There'll also be interviews with you and documents for you to sign for the awards. Thanks to the audience in Montreal and Toronto.
Merci beaucoup,
thank you very much, Nora. Thank you to those who have followed us on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for being there. And again, thanks to all the participants who made this Hackathon 2019 possible on behalf of CBC and Radio-Canada. Thanks, and perhaps we'll meet again.